In 1996, in the cold state of Alaska, USA, an incident took place that is still considered one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. It happened in a small town called Black Ridge, home to only a few hundred people. The town was surrounded by dense forests, icy mountains, and silent valleys. The people there lived simple lives, but there was one thing that terrified everyone whenever its name was mentioned. Deep inside the forest was a place known as the Silent Zone. People claimed that compasses stopped working there, clocks froze, and strange whispers echoed through the woods at night. Years earlier, several hunters had entered the area, but never returned. The younger generation, however, believed those stories were nothing more than old legends. Among them were 5 friends: Adam, Jack, Lisa, Michael, and Sophie. They loved adventure and laughed at the mysterious tales of their town. One day, they decided to enter the Silent Zone themselves and uncover the truth. On the evening of November 17, 1996, the 5 friends packed supplies into a Jeep and drove toward the forest. They carried cameras, flashlights, food, and a video recorder. Along the way, they met an old man. He warned them, "If you can return before nightfall, do it, because after dark it wakes up." The friends laughed and continued driving deeper into the forest. As they moved farther into the woods, the atmosphere began to change. The trees grew unnaturally tall and dense. The air became colder, even though the weather was already freezing. Then something strange happened. The Jeep's radio suddenly turned on by itself, filling the air with static noise. A few seconds later, a faint voice came through. "Turn back." Michael quickly shut the radio off, but fear was already visible on everyone's faces. Around 11 p.m., they finally arrived at the Silent Zone. There was absolute silence, no wind, no animals, no bird, only a strange pressure in the air, as if something was watching them. They set up a tent and began recording video footage. At first, everything seemed normal. But around 1 a.m., Sophie suddenly screamed. She had seen a tall black shadow standing between the distant trees. Everyone pointed their flashlights toward it, but nothing was there. A little later, they started hearing footsteps. The sound of someone walking across the snow, but nobody was outside. Without warning, all of their flashlights shut off at the exact same moment. For a few terrifying seconds, there was complete darkness. Then, a glowing blue light appeared deep within the forest. Slowly, it began moving toward them. The video recorder was still running. The camera captured all 5 friends trembling in fear. Then Adam's voice could be heard saying, "That's not human." At that exact moment, a loud explosion erupted outside the tent. Everyone screamed and ran outside. The camera fell onto the ground, but it kept recording. The footage showed only running footsteps, terrified screams, and a tall shadow moving between the trees. Then Lisa screamed, "Don't let it touch you." And in the very next second, the video went completely black. The next morning, when police arrived at the scene, they found only a torn tent. Footprints belonging to all 5 friends were visible in the snow. But after a short distance, the tracks suddenly disappeared. It looked as if they had been lifted into the air. Police also discovered something even stranger. A patch of ground between the trees had been completely burned, despite there being no signs of fire nearby. The government immediately sealed off the entire area. FBI agents arrived shortly after, but only a few days later, the case was mysteriously closed. The official report contained only one sentence: cause could not be determined. But the most terrifying part came afterward. Several months later, a hunter claimed he had seen 5 figures standing silently in the forest. Their faces could not be seen, and blue light was glowing from their eyes. When the hunter stepped closer, all 5 suddenly disappeared behind the trees. Today, nearly 30 years later, the Silent Zone is still considered one of the most dangerous, mysterious places in the world. People say that if you go there at night, sometimes from deep within the forest, a voice whispers, "Turn back."